Hello, honeys. Welcome back to Queen Flow. Today's conversation has been a long time in the making, but we are here. And it's not because, like, oh my gosh, the heavens have parted and I had no idea what to say before and I now know exactly what to say. I literally was like getting ready. My mom is getting ready to have a Christmas party, getting ready for the Christmas party. And it just came through me like, today's the day. We've got to record the episode. So I am doing this literally before all the guests come over for our Christmas party. So, before we dive in, I want to let you know the Golden Door sale is currently live. This is absolutely the biggest sale in the business all year. Previously, if y'all have been around for a while, it was called High Level Honey. I felt the need to evolve. I felt the desire to evolve. We went in that direction. So the Golden Door sale is going to give you the biggest savings, the biggest bonuses, the biggest, all the things to come into my high proximity spaces. So you have options ranging from a single intensive with me at 50% off. You can do a month-long intensive, 3-6 months of private mentorship. There's opportunities to join the Revolution, which is going to be my mastermind for you to receive high-touch, individually attuned mentorship, access the full premium product suite for those of you scaling to 5, multiple 5, and 6-figure months. I always want to preface, because there's so many of these on the internet, I do not run these like 100-person masterminds where you maybe get mentored once a year and like what you really paid for is to just like be in the energy and talk to other people who've invested. Like, this is not what we do in my spaces. And the reason my clients are getting such phenomenal results in my proximity spaces is because I actually mentor them. So I want you to be really clear on that coming in, that this is not what that is. Like, you will always receive mentorship. You will always get your questions answered. I will know you. I will know your business. I will always be optimizing for strategies that are going to match your energy and tuning into your frequencies and what's going to actually feel like a vibe for you, what is coming up for you, what is opening up for you, and where we want to focus now. So I am a hands-on mentor, always have been, very happy to own that. So that is the vibe inside the Revolution. We also have Fempire, which is going to be my most intimate mastermind. So the difference there is really that Fempire is going to be a more intimate group. There's also Telegram access with me Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And it's going to be for you if you've already run group spaces before, you've already had 10K months, right? And we are now specifically, calibrating into 20K to 100K months with the leading energy of ease. I actually recently put out on the show a whole compilation episode from the women who've been inside Fempire and their stories. It is such a magical space. The Revolution is so magical. You can go back and listen to episodes as well of women who are currently inside or have been inside the Revolution. It's just like, which way do you desire to mastermind? I have clients who are just like, with the Revolution, we have our 2 times hot seat coaching calls a month. And we also have 2 6-week intensive masterminds. The next one is coming up in early 2026, which means 6 back-to-back weeks with me. I will be choosing a theme. They're always going to be focused on a combination of me teaching and mentoring. So those 2 masterminds alone, were you to invest in singularly in a mastermind with me standalone, they'd be 5K each. They are bonus into the Revolution that is on top of our 2 times monthly hot seat coaching calls. Like, give yourself the gift of coming into a mastermind space with me. Or if you're like, I would just like private mentorship, I want to be the only one in the room, you have options with the Golden Door sale as well. So those are the 3 areas: private mentorship, the Revolution, the mastermind, or Fempire, the mastermind. I'm going to put the link in episode notes. As always, reach out to me if you have any questions. I can help you decide where to go. Connect with me. You can also email my team, assistant@jocelynkelly.com, and we will give you all the help that you need. As always, you are able to rate and review the podcast. Email your review to assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com, and you can receive $200 off any offer in my world, with the exception of the Secret Money membership. Okay, so let's dive in. So y'all, we already know like 2025 was the year of the snake. 2025 numerology wise, you know what I'm trying to say, was the year number 9. Massive shedding, massive endings. Nobody got to like skip out on that one. And I don't even think I knew that going into the year, but I clearly experienced it. And one of the biggest things that shifted in my life and felt major to me, especially with someone, my Venus is in Taurus. I like my home, very stabilized, full of all my beautiful things, like just bathing in my luxury, like get my pieces in the house, right? And I've always been very attached to home. Like I was in the interior design world before my current business. And, after I was in finance and worked for a number of startups and all these different things, the last career I had was in the interior design industry before moving into the business that I have now. And like, I've just always loved home. I've always loved design. Like I'm extremely impacted by my physical environment, which is why I was actually called to leave New York. So if you've been here for a while, you know that one of my greatest manifestations was moving out of my little baby, although I made it very cute, 1-bedroom apartment that I had in Cobble Hill, the apartment that I moved into after I left Los Angeles, the apartment I started my business in, the apartment I made my first couple mil. I don't know if it was my first couple mil. I can't remember like at what point in my business I was when I left. I think I was maybe coming off my first 900K year. So I probably made like a couple mil in there, right? But like I had no office in there. I literally built my business from my laptop sitting on my sofa, which funny enough, I still like to sit on the sofa. And I did in my other apartment too, even when I had a huge office. But I like teaching and recording and all. I love having an office and just like a space for work. But literally did that. And I would like rearrange my living room for my live so it would look cute and I could have a cute backdrop. I was in there for COVID, like built my business in there. So grateful for that space. And then there's a whole episode too about how I manifested that apartment. Did I move at the end of 2022? I was in there for about 3 years, the glass castle in the sky. And it was so gorgeous. But anyway, so that manifestation was huge. Everything I teach in Overflow is what sped up my money to be able to move from an apartment that was $2,800 a month to one that was $15,000 a month without any in-between steps, to have it be easy, to do it while I was also like investing 6 figures a year in mentorship, making huge investments into short-term real estate, into other vehicles that were going to like reduce my taxable income, help me grow wealth over time. Like I was just moving so much money and I got myself into that place of like receiving a lot of money, moving a lot of money and holding a lot of money, which I'd not been able to do before. I'd always kind of been stuck with like, yeah, of course I got myself to like, before my era of 6-figure months, like 30K months, 50K months, but my bank account was always staying the same. I felt like my income was staying the same. And I was just kind of like, bleh, like stuck, right? Kind of like plateaued. For some of you, might experience feast or famine, whatever it is. Everything I teach in Overflow, well, I will stand by that shit till the end of time, like radically changed my financial life and my financial trajectory. And is what sped me up to be able to 6 times the amount of money in my account in a matter of a few months, speeding me up, doubling my income to 100K months, like moving, 50, I think it was like $50,000 at one time, having a 6-figure week the following week. And like, there was no push, there was no strain. There were not 6,000 new offers. Like we were just operating a totally different frequency with money. So if you've not invested in Overflow yet, well, get to it. Anyhow, so like all of that. And I just love the offers in my business because it's like, if the business is the story of my life, right? Within the context of business, money, of course, I have offers that are on like our personal power and like all these different aspects of well, like I'm incredibly multidimensional. But it's like, then every offer in my business, right, is going to teach you key things that I learned and transcending from one place to the next. So it's also just so important to me to like go through all these phases. And then, for example, if it's not wrapped up in an offer, it's definitely going to be inside my mentorship or both. So anyhow, that all occurred and that was all incredible. I had never almost even imagined that I would be able to like live at that level, to pay to live at that level, much less like in New York. This is like a 0.1% opportunity. I had a huge 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, freestanding glass tub, like overlooking the water, went glass floor to ceiling windows on all sides. Like it was spent $60,000 decorating it, fucking gorgeous. Like I loved it. I loved it. And then, and that was good for me for like, I was there for about 3 years, but I kind of never moved in being like, oh my God. I mean, I think there was parts of me that was like, oh my God, when am I going to buy this place? Or like imagining the penthouse and different things like that. But the longer that I was in New York, and I was in New York for 7 years, the more that I started to like, I just started to change, right? I started to change, and New York was so good to me. I had some of the best years of my life in New York. And like, I always had kind of like a more peaceful version. One, I had like multiple years that were COVID, so it was more chill. Two, I lived in Brooklyn. I never lived in the city. So I lived in Cobble Hill. And then I lived in Brooklyn Heights, which neighbors Cobble Hill. And even in my glass castle, it was like right on Brooklyn Bridge Park. It was on the water. Like there, I'm not surrounded by construction. Like it was a vibe. It was just beautiful. But what started to happen over time is like I just started to change. And New York, and like everyone will take it, is becoming increasingly loud, increasingly busy. One of my neighbors who literally grew up in there, grew up there. She was like, yeah, it's like kind of like becoming Dubai. It's like so much. I don't mean for like New York's always been diverse, but it's like, okay, these like businessmen from China who don't even live here are like buying up all this super expensive real estate, banks buying up all this real estate. You know what I mean? Like sort of how if y'all have been in Williamsburg, I don't really like Williamsburg. It just turned into like a big outdoor mall. And it was like sort of starting to happen, not as much in my neighborhood because Brooklyn Heights is a historic district, which is something like I really like being around like history. So it's kind of like the closest vibe you're going to get in the United States, like walking the streets and it kind of like feels European. And that's what I love so much about it. But it was like family owned places were closing. And like, I don't want to be living around a bunch of big box stores. I have no interest. And I'm from California. I like my organic food, all of those things. And when they closed, my favorite organic grocery store, which had been there, family owned, been there since the 70s, I was like, are you fucking kidding? Like, I do not want to buy my food at Key Food, which is what was opened. I was like, what is Key Food? No, I do not want to buy. I like Trader Joe's, but like, I'm not trying to like have all my food come from Trader Joe's or my produce. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I'm not into this. Like previously, I loved like going to my organic grocery store. We had a butcher, we had a fish market, and the butcher and the fish market are still there. The butcher I loved, Staubitz. It's literally, I think it's the oldest butcher in New York. Anyways, they were always like so amazing. When Brooklyn was a puppy, I would go in there and they would always like give me marrow bones for her. And just, I love them. Like, I love kind of like these old school family establishments that make you feel connected to the community. Loved my fish market, all things. Those things are still stayed there. They were a little further away from me when I moved down to the water because in Cobble Hill, they were like a couple blocks from my apartment. Anyway, they closed my favorite organic grocery store. And I was just like, oh, and it just made me feel like I start to get anxious when I feel like I don't have access to really healthy living. It really gives me like, I feel sick. Like it gives me anxiety. And so there was a farmer's market, but the farmer's market was there on Tuesday and Saturday. That's like very specific. It was close to where I would take Brooklyn to run in the morning, but like, then what I'm supposed to walk back with like all these bags. Like I would go sometimes and oh my God, worlds of difference. Like eat from the farmer's market and you're like, what in the God's name are they selling in the grocery store? But still, I was like, this is so weird. I am paying an absolute premium to live here. I could have literally bought multiple homes by what I'm spending to live in this apartment, and I can't even eat what I want to eat. And like, it also just started to get weird where I was like, all right, so I have to go to Whole Foods. There's no other options. There are no other organic grocery stores. Your other option is Whole Foods, which is in downtown Brooklyn. I hate downtown Brooklyn. And beyond that, Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. Like, let's not act like Whole Foods is like the cleanest, most delicious food. It's not. It's like the best big box option. And I was like, this is so weird. And I'm from the Bay Area where it is like totally standard to just have the healthiest food. There are 1,000,001 organic grocery stores. There are family owned grocery stores. Like the Bay Area, I will have to give this the credit where credit is due, is so good at like not allowing itself to be ruined. Like I grew up in Piedmont. That's where my family lives. And even when I like now go to Rockridge, Berkeley, whatever it is, College Avenue, there are so many family owned stores. Big box stores have not taken over, even in 2025. And like the community is very resistant to that takeover. My mom told me this story. I don't know what the store was, but this like kind of like more mainstream, I think it was like a candy store or a bakery, something like that, was opening in the Rockridge area. The community said, we don't want it because there was a family owned store that like sells all these yummy cookies and all this stuff very close by. And they like supporting family business here, as we should. And they opened, the city allowed the store to open anyway. Nobody went. Nobody went and it had to close. Now there's still some other, I noticed there's like a Blue Mercury and there's like a couple other things, but predominantly it's family owned stores. It feels very grounded. And like New York was starting to not feel grounded to me, even though I loved it. So there was that where I was like, okay, first of all, Whole Foods was not walking distance from my apartment. So I was paying to get my food delivered, my like subpar food that just, the vegetables just tasted like blah, even though they were organic. And then literally where New York is at with like the price of groceries is like you buy 5 things and it costs $100 and they don't even taste good. I was like, if I can't even have like basic health here, why am I paying all this money? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And for some reason, all these people are like, okay with it. I am not. And then, but what kept me was like, I loved my home so much. And like, I loved my community and things like that. And like, oh my, when it was COVID and everything was just like quieter and Brooklyn never felt like a ghost town the way the city did because it was always residential. So people were just home and we were sitting on the stoop and we were like getting to know each other. And you could like literally go buy a glass of wine, like at the bar, you were allowed to like drink outside and like we would go sit in the park and get food. And like, it was so nice. I loved it. I'm so grateful for my time there. So like, do not, it's like not one of these like, oh my God, I hate it. I actually loved it. And it like lives in my soul forever. But I'm just speaking about the ways that it changed where I could not ignore, and the way that I changed too, in terms of my priorities, where I could not ignore the lack of alignment. The other thing is I really like being outside. And that is what is grounding for me. And I lived on Brooklyn Bridge Park, and I love that because I had direct access to the park. That was my backyard. However, the tourism was becoming so intense that y'all have probably heard, if I ever like did my stories and stuff outside, there is a helicopter going by every 30 seconds, like no exaggeration. And they are low and they are loud. So you literally could not even be in the park and have quiet. Like there was no quiet anywhere. Then if you walk away from the park, there's construction. Then they decided they were going to like develop. So I lived on the waterfront. So it was like Brooklyn Bridge Park. So like Dumbo over here, Brooklyn Bridge Park, then Brooklyn Heights. And then further down the water was like the Columbia Water District. And if you go past that, you would go to Red Hook. So I used to like always go to Red Hook to like get quiet. You can't get there on the subway. So like it was real chill. And then there was also Governor's Island, which I also loved. And I would like take the ferry because there was a ferry stop like right outside my building, which was super cool. Take the ferry to Governor's Island. Also very quiet. Loved that. But anyhow, so they then wanted to develop the waterfront for like, I don't know, 10,000 people or something. That number could be wrong, but it's just like outrageous considering how crowded the park would already get in the summer and all these things. Add more people, develop the whole waterfront, which is just like industrial right now. And there's nothing there. And I was like, this is going to be horrible. Like, and they started construction. I was like, I can't do this. And also my body was just fully rejecting everything. So I'd spent all my time like weighted vest walking around, going to parks that were kind of quiet, like just trying to get away from the noise. It was like, why am I paying a premium to live here if I'm always trying to get away from the noise? And then my body just started to like reject the energetic level there. Like my last period in New York was 2 weeks. I have never had a 2-week period in my life, other than, if you remember my story from Los Angeles, where I wound up having to have surgery and the fibroid removal, and I started bleeding, never stopped bleeding, all this drama. That was a whole other episode of my life. But interesting, like your period will tell you everything, right? 2 weeks because my body was so stressed. So I wasn't really stressed in my mind, but like my body was rejecting the city, and I was starting to feel fatigued and just like I could never fully relax. And the most quiet it was in my apartment. But like, you also want to be able to go outside and relax. And if I'm outside and there's always helicopters flying over, or I need to go over, like, walk 40 minutes to another, like Red Hook was like a pretty far walk, or at least the parks I liked going like to the water by Red Hook. Anyway, y'all get the ideas. Like I was always trying to escape, right? And then like, okay, so you know how this is maybe TMI for some of you, but I don't care. I just want to give you the degree to which my body was like, we're done. So obviously, you wake up in the morning, you have to pee. I would wake up and I'd have to pee and like, it wouldn't come out. And I was like, or come out really slow. Okay. I was like, I'm not an 80-year-old woman. Like, what is this? And then every time I travel, I'd be fine. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm not stressed while I sleep, that my body is so tense, even though I'm on the 21st floor, even though it's quiet, but also like how much Wi-Fi was I surrounded with living in like a luxury building with all these different people? Like also, yeah, I was over the park, but one side of the apartment, like there was the freeway below. Like you didn't notice it that much because I was so high up. You would just like see over Brooklyn, but like that's there. And I started wondering about the air quality. I'm like, this is there all the time. And I can't pee in the morning now. And keep in mind, this wasn't happening the whole time I lived there. This was all just like towards the last like 6 months where I was realizing that like this was not going to work anymore. And I was just feeling lethargic and like, it's like, taking all the supplements. I had gotten through my winters. I had this like, I was so happy when it opened. It's called Recovery and it was at the bottom of my building. So I would go to the red light sauna. I'm sorry, the red light bed, do the infrared sauna, all those things. Like that was the only way I was able to handle those winters. Like I'm a girl who needs sun. So that like saved me, right? For like, it was like 2 winters they were there while I was there. But then even that just like was not enough. And my body was so stressed. My body was so stressed. I could not ignore it. I was like, I can't continue like this. So I'm already living in one of the quietest parts of New York that is also now increasingly loud. If I go quieter, we're going upstate. I don't want to live in upstate New York. And also, they have a more intense winter. I don't want more. And like, also what was starting to change is that my apartment was so gorgeous, but like I was starting to feel kind of empty. And I was like, why does this feel empty? So it was like visibly gorgeous and it felt amazing. Again, this was not the whole time I was there. This is literally when I was being pushed to leave. But I was starting to feel this emptiness in my chest. And I was like, okay, I am not fully fulfilled anymore. And we've got to make a change. I've got a Sag moon, guys. This is going to happen. I'm a Scorpio rising. We eat death and rebirth for breakfast. Like Sag moon, I'm always going to want to adventure. I have a stellium in Aries, a stellium in Sagittarius. Like your girl's moving, right? And it was just so weird because every time I'd come in, I'd feel this like emptiness in my chest that had not been there, no matter how many people came over or whatever. And I was like, whew, okay, well, I'm spending a lot of money to feel emptiness in my chest, to be physically sick. And then one of my neighbors pointed out to me, she's like, yeah, well, everyone who has money in New York, you either pay to get away from it and you pay to leave. Meaning like I got myself on the 21st floor. You could just like look at the view, right? Or you're paying to leave the city all the time and have some other house. I was like, this also is kind of not making sense. Then she also, brought up the point of like, everybody's just in and my experience was different because I worked for myself. But when, you look around at people who, yes, were making a lot of money, but let's say had corporate jobs, well, you have to spend all your time working to be able to pay for it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. And that, again, was not necessarily my experience because I had my own business. And so, like, my business is making the money the business makes regardless of where I live, right? It's not like I had some specific, like I had neighbors where the husband, yeah, he was making a lot of money, but he told me that his job only exists in New York. So if they leave New York, they're going to have like a major problem. I'm sure he could like manifest something, but you know what I mean? These weird things where it's like, you're just tied in. I was like, that's kind of a weird energy. And I was just realizing everybody's like busy running around working all the time. And I have my own business and I'm not busy running around working all the time. And I just want to like relax. And then I started getting sick and then it's like, and it costs this much and I can't even eat well, like not because of lack of diversity of food, but just like eat organically, which is how I want to be eating. I'm not going to like let the food I'm eating kill me. And then healthy is eating from Whole Foods, like get real. And then even though Whole Foods has some great options, you get my point. It's still a big box store. I can't like, I don't know, watching all these like family owned businesses close. I was like, I don't like this anymore. But I also like New York is New York. And if you've ever lived there, it becomes part of your identity. And I have so many great memories and I met so many amazing people. And I got to live like near people I went to school with for the first time since college. Who are, like, there's real fucking people there. Like, I'm not a West Coast girl when it comes to people type. I'm an East Coast girl through and through when it comes to people type. I like direct. I do not like playing nice when you don't mean nice. I like East Coast. I like that people are just accustomed to being around other people because you like ride the subway, you're getting sweat dripped on you in the summer, like where you're used to people, whereas people in California can be like a little weird about people because, you can like stay in your car and just do your own thing. You're not forced into just like a lot of human interaction. California is amazing because California is so beautiful, right? They're very different states. But anyhow, was not going to go to upstate New York. And I was like, we were getting close to the end of the year. My mom was having some health issues. She had to have a pretty, I would call it serious surgery. My dad is having some like cognitive issues. And like, we're coming up on the end of the year. And I was already going to go home for Thanksgiving. I was already going to go home for Christmas. And I was like, let's just leave. What are we doing here? Let's just leave. There's a million and one ways this isn't working anymore. your body is feeling heavy, sick. You just had a 2-week period. You're 40 years old and can't pee in the morning because you're so internally stressed. Because I didn't know I was internally stressed because, like, whoops, previously when I was younger, it would have shown up like in my, like clenching my jaw. I used to do that a lot, or stomach aches. And I wasn't having stomach aches and I wasn't clenching my jaw. But it was just like, honestly, probably I was so conditioned to it, like I didn't realize. And then like the way I was, the way I spent my time was changing. So when I was younger, like I lived there for 7 years, I was running around New York all the time. I was going to all these design shows. I was going out at night. I was like doing 1 million things that make sense if you want to pay to live in New York. And then at my current season of life, I didn't want to do that anymore. I just liked going to dinners. I liked like intimate time with my friends, and I liked being outside, like outside of me just doing my normal, like, what do I like to do? Like exercise and taking care of myself and reading books and watching movies. But I'm like, we're living a pretty chill life. Again, why are we paying to live in New York if you just all you want to do is hang out? And I'm always like, when you ask me like, oh my God, like what's my dream place to live, all this stuff, I'm always like, oh, on the beach, this ranch, blah, blah, blah. Again, New York, big cities never come in the conversation. So I was realizing, I'm like, what exactly am I doing? And then my friend Danielle McCleary, she's been on my show. I've been on her show. She's a human design and astrology expert. Like she came to visit New York. We actually had like the best fucking day. Like, the things that are amazing about New York is like you roll out the door and you can have like the most fun day all the way through the night. And like you don't even have to go home. And it was summer, it's hot all day, all night. Fucking love those. And I can't wait to go back and visit and still have those with my friends who are there. Anyway, she got to meet like one of my best friends, Stefan. Him and I met in college, but we became really good friends after we'd already graduated, which is interesting. He was definitely my best friend, like in New York. And we got to hang out with him, his partner, her, and her best friend both came in town, and me. And we just had like the most fun, the deepest conversations, whatever. So I was sharing like this weird back and forth that I was having about the apartment, about New York. Like, why am I feeling empty? Like, I've been fulfilled for so many years. What's going on? She was like, I feel like you're just bored. You're bored. And like, you've already, how to make a lot of money. Like you can get the dream apartment. That you can like, this whole energy of like, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Like you've lived that. Right. And you're a Sag moon and you're a Scorpio rising, and like you eat death and rebirth for breakfast, and you're always going to want like some level of change, even though like I'm not nomadic, but you know what I mean? Like what even wealth means to me, what rich means to me, what feels good to me is just going to change. When she pointed out, like, I think you're bored, I was like, ooh, girl, well, that is not going to be it. Cause there's bored in a good way where you're just like, oh my God. And it's not even boredom. It's like peace, stability. Yum. Love that. But bored, and then spending that much money to be somewhere that's not like lighting me up anymore. I was like, oh, this makes no sense. I swear to you, within 48. And then it was so interesting. So I have a client. So the next, I really was like, oof, okay, I heard that. And that she's a fellow Scorpio rising. We will always tell y'all the truth. And the next day I was in bed and like I opened my phone, and I have a client who lives in Charleston, and I saw like her payment come through. And for some reason, I like looked at the invoice and I saw Charleston. Y'all, I've never thought about Charleston. I'd never considered living in the South, nothing. Even though my extended family is from the South. So like I'm very familiar with the South and the energy there. And I always thought I wouldn't do it because like, there's a lot of history there. I just like didn't think it was my speed, because there's a lot of pieces of me that heavily identify with the Northeast. There's pieces of me that heavily identify with California in terms of like, I love the rolling hills. I love the beach. I love the food, like that quality of life things. I mean, it's just so aesthetically beautiful. It's unreal. Right. But I don't want to live in California. Like I've lived in San Francisco. I grew up here. I lived in LA. Like I'm cool. But anyhow, the South had never crossed my mind. I don't desire to move overseas at this point. And I like living near water. So I was like, oh my God, I think I'm supposed to move to Charleston, which is so weird because I had spent no time in Charleston. My parents used to go. So we would spend a month in Georgia, in Atlanta every summer, because we were the only ones who lived in California. Our whole extended family lived in Georgia, in Atlanta. And so my parents want us to like have a relationship with our cousins, spend extended periods of time with our grandparents, and not be like, the kids who feel like they have no family because we're in California and everybody else is in the South. So my parents actually used to go to Charleston every year while we were in Georgia, and like they would go do their own little solo trip while we were like with our grandparents and our cousins and stuff. And like I knew, because a lot of people, transplants have moved there, right, during this COVID era. I only heard good things, but like still it just wasn't on my radar. Like not good or bad, just like not on the radar. I see it come through from my client who happens to live there. And then my mom calls me the same day. She's like, hey, Jocelyn, like, she tells me there's this hotel that's opened and she wants to go to Charleston. I'm like, okay, well, y'all, we don't need to like know that much about the universe to know when the universe is talking to us. I was like, cool, let's go. And I'd already decided to leave New York. So I told her that I was going to leave New York. I was going to come back to California, hang out in California through the end of the year and like see how I felt. But that I really felt like I wanted to move to Charleston. And I did not want to leave the East Coast without going to Charleston because I know myself. And if I didn't have this sense of like, hey, this is where I believe I want to be, and because it just hit me intuitively, like if I didn't go explore it, like something's going to feel like it was missing. So I was like, cool, let's go to Charleston. Plus it worked out because then my grandma was having her 100th birthday, which is just like insane. Her 100th birthday in Atlanta. So we were going to go to Charleston and then go to Atlanta for my grandma's 100th birthday, which actually like those couple of weeks were just so fun. The whole thing was amazing. I fucking loved Charleston. And the only thing I'm unsure about is like, I really want space this go round. I've already done brownstone living. I've already done glass castle in the sky. Like, I don't really want to be in another luxury apartment building. I love the energy of like a freestanding home a lot more, but I get scared by myself and I do not like sleeping on the first floor. And I feel really weird, like that people can like come up to my house. Like I felt so safe in my old apartment. I was at the 21st floor. It was like you would have to come down the park, go through the doorman, get through the elevator, get to my floor. I mean, there's so much safety from like just people doing people things, right? I felt more safe there than anywhere I've ever lived. And guys, I actually have had crazy things happen in my home environment. So like every time I lived on the first floor, it's been a mess. When I was in college, this guy tried to like come into our apartment while I was awake at 3:00 in the morning, writing a paper, obviously traumatizing. When I just moved to LA and I lived on the first floor before I moved, I had a peeping Tom who was like talking to me through my window. It was a whole thing. Like, so I've had enough. I'm like, I need to feel physically safe. Again, like we all need to feel safe, but I've got like my Taurus and Venus, like stability for me in the home realm is like really important. So I don't know how to balance that where I'm like, I want this access to the beach. I want freestanding home vibes, but I don't want to be scared at night. So we're going to have to figure out what manifests and see what happens. My astrologer thinks that I'm not going to settle down into a home until I meet my partner, and that I'm also very likely to just like go be Airbnb and just like live life for the next year or so, which could definitely happen. So I've been in okay, so we go to Charleston. I fucking love it. I get there, I land. I told this story in my last episode, but it's like it feels so grounded. Like I got off the plane, and I was like, whew. Like I feel my energy like just ground in. Actually kind of similar to how I feel when we go to Hawaii. Very different because Hawaii is like tropical and totally different vibe. But I had this like rooted, grounded energy, which is very important to me. Like I run really hot. My whole chart is fire and water, which my water is all Scorpio. So that's like boiling water, you know? Whereas like California is nice, but California has like a much more of, it's a younger state, or it's a younger part of the country. It has kind of like an airy feeling. My mom pointed out correctly. She's like, yeah, it doesn't feel as grounded. We literally have earthquakes. I'm like, okay, fair, right? But I'm used to it. So I was like, I'm going to come back to California. It worked out perfectly because I could help her through the surgery and just like keep her company and do fun things with her, and my dad too. And my brother's here and his wife and their kids, and they're 4, and Reese and Nora are 4 and 2. And like, you know, I don't get to spend that much time with them because I've always been living across the country. And while I don't necessarily want to have kids, although I'm very open to my partner having kids, like I just don't really want to like birth them and do the whole thing. I don't feel that pull. I had a reading with Ainsley McLeod. You know, he does those like soul levels. He told me that I've been a mom in so many lifetimes because it doesn't feel unfamiliar to me. I know I'd be a phenomenal mom, all those things. But he said that I've done it in so many lifetimes that I'm just complete. And I was like, huh, how interesting. But I love kids. So if my partner has kids, amazing. Assuming they're like not like an infant and you got divorced like 6 months ago. That's a weird vibe. But you know what I mean. It's all feeling like a vibe and it's all appropriate. And I love being around my brother's kids. And I was like, you know what? This opportunity is probably never going to happen again because I don't want to live in California where I can like be around my family for an extended period of time. And the whole thing, I was like, let's just go see how it is. And it felt weird. Like it felt weird because my other moves, like I would say leaving San Francisco, moving to LA, leaving LA, moving to New York, it felt similar to that moment like with Charleston. I was like, oh my God, this is what's next. And then just like the universe just moves everything in my favor and it just like, boom, it opens up. California, there was nothing to move in my favor and open up because there was no like finances I needed to create or like home I needed to find or whatever. It was like very easy to put my stuff in storage. Well, took them 10 hours to pack and move my apartment. But you know what I mean? It was like I had somewhere to go, easy to put my stuff in storage. There was no like, we've got to find your neighborhood, all these things that I had when I moved to LA, I moved to New York. So there wasn't as much like working with the universe other than making sure I had really great movers, which I did. Roadway Moving, they did a phenomenal job. Got my stuff into really reliable storage, my moving insurance, all that kind of stuff because like I love my things and I wanted to keep them, not sell them. Granted, I assume when I move in Charleston, like it'll be a much more traditional style home. Like I'm not wanting kind of like chic glass castle in the sky like next. I definitely want something that's like a little cozier, more traditional. So is my furniture going to match? We don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I loved it. And honestly, like it didn't make sense to sell it. My stuff is too nice. So we just need to cross that bridge when we get there. But anyhow, so it was different because I didn't feel like I was working with the universe as much. I felt like I was surrendering to the universe without knowing exactly where we were going. And in a way, I'm still very much in the middle zone. So I've been here since I think I moved October. I know I haven't even shared on social media. I did record like moving out and all the things, but it's like y'all know me, right? I'm not necessarily like the type who's like, here, let me share every single thing I'm doing every day. Like I kind of share things when I have something to say. And I also just like sharing on the podcast more than I'm so in love with Instagram or like talking to you. But I did like, I have all these videos. So I'm just like, I haven't known how to sum it up. I haven't known exactly what I wanted to say. And so I always just do best if I can just like get up and talk, which is why we're here today. But anyway, I felt like I was just surrendering to the plan more than I was like co-creating some like big thing. And I've been here since October. It's currently the end of December. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, still don't feel called. I know I want to ultimately be in Charleston, but I don't feel called to go right now. And just the energy of like, hey, let me find the next place, do all these things. I'm like, sounds exhausting. Like, I'm a generator. Like, I know because it'll like light me up and it's like time to go. I'm like, that's not what I'm intended to be doing right now. And also, I don't want, like, I think what's going to happen is like, I'll Airbnb, I'll try out a couple different places. But I think even before that, I think I'm going to just like be here and enjoy California. There's like some trips me and my mom want to go on. And then also just like Airbnb rounds and like and I feel myself just becoming like, I know who I am. Like I do have a divine, is it G center in human design where it's like your core always kind of stays the same. I definitely am like that, but it's just like the expression of what feels good to me, like will change, whether it's in the business or in my life or my relationships or whatever it is. So it's like, I will feel solid in my core, but what lights me up and what feels like good to me changes. It changes for all of us. I just go through, I would say, more change than most people just because of like how I'm oriented. Like it's in my charts. It's just who I am, right? I also have a Lilith in Aquarius. So I'm just kind of like built to be the rebel, doing things differently than a lot of people. Obviously, many 42-year-old women are doing very different things in life than how I'm living right now. But like, this is my path. And sometimes it feels weird. Sometimes I'm like, why didn't I just choose the normal road? But I would have exploded, right? So for me, even like my Chiron's on my Venus, so big lessons and with love and money and big growth through relationships. But you know, even my astrologer is telling me like most people with a Chiron and their Chiron and their Venus I was never going to be the type to like settle down in my 20s, like with the love of my life and like have 4 kids and buy a house. Like this just never would have happened. Like we all have our different things, right? I meant to settle down a bit later in life. And like, thank God, because even if I had done that, I would have been divorced like 3 times. I've just changed too much. Whereas for other people, they're meant to evolve inside the relationship. I'm an Aries, like I'm a soul 1 in numerology. Like I'm intended to develop on my own first, right? And then settle into partnership like from that place. So we're all wired so differently. Nothing's better or worse. We're just different. But especially with that Lilith and Aquarius energy for me, where it's like, people sometimes feel like they don't know what's coming next. Like, what am I going to do? Right. And it's like, I'm very like being like complying with the system or like group think or like, you know how I'm like allergic to like being part of the community and like drinking Kool-Aid. I like community, but you know what I mean? Difference between liking community and like this community is my identity. Or I'm always like, y'all, stop fucking investing in cults or looking for a cult leader as a mentor. It's like, let's go in places where we can amplify your power and monetize your power. Not so you can like be like me, do things like me. The places where we have alignment, amazing. But like, people even just get mentorship contorted. I'm like, you don't invest in someone because you like need to be like them or do things exactly how they do. Right. Or like look for you to align with them perfectly in order for you to like be in agreement. It's just like, no, you just invest with people who expand you, have something to teach you. Right. Like people need to stop looking for these like perfect people in perfect places and actually just be in places that are going to open your brain and build your business intelligence, build your intuitive intelligence, build connection and power, open you up to your blind spots and like help you move ahead faster. I'm very independent, right? But we also need like closeness and relationship. And I did not feel like I had the capacity to build a lot of closeness and deep relationship in New York because all of my energy was going to just like to like staying regulated there. Right? Because like my body was rejecting it. So it was like I didn't have space. I can only with things when I feel space and I didn't feel space. So I have this huge apartment. I'm like, I don't even think I could have someone else in here because like this city is stressing me out too much. Like that's not going to feel like yum to me. So that was also a sign because I'm moving into an era of my life where I would say romantic relationship is like become not just like dating, but you know what I mean? Like for real is like becoming of higher priority and value, which, you know, it's interesting because I was someone who was, I mean, literally from like 12 years old, I always had a boyfriend. Always. We were talking about always 24, 365 days a year. One relationship would end, another one would start, right? That literally went on until like I moved to LA. But then remember, I was involved in that like up and down dramatic thing. So I would say that went on, I mean, for a long time. So it's only been like, I would say in my time in New York, although of course I did date, that I was more like getting to find out who I am, like separate from a relationship, separate from a man. It's not even about a man or a woman, just separate from a partner and like stepping into my purpose. Like I had so much to discover about myself. And now it's like I've built myself up so much, like career wise, money wise, purpose wise. And we're still always expanding, of course. And we're navigating how we change inside that, releasing different offers, what's in alignment. Okay, the internet's going here, but do I want to go there? Like always asking ourselves these questions. And y'all know I have so much to say about that, but like we can talk about that in other episodes. And of course, like in mentorship spaces, because it's quite interesting these days in the wild, wild west that is the internet. But anyhow, my priorities are changing too. Like before, my biggest priority wasn't like, I want to be able to put my feet in the sand and listen to the ocean. I want to be able to go outside and hear the birds. This is not where my priorities were. And so I've developed so much of myself on the professional front. Like other parts of me are asking to be developed as well. Right. And it's like, I just want to be able to like hear my intuition. I don't want to have headphones in because to block out city noise. And so that all changed. And in the same, I'm also like in a middle season where I'm like, oh, I've never like not had my home full of all my stuff, like blah, blah, blah. But I also don't feel called to right now. Like it feels kind of heavy, which means that I'm supposed to be where I am now. And then also adventure. Like I love Marin County. I'm like, oh, I could go like rent a house by the beach. I can go here with my mom. I can do this. I can do that. It's the end of the year right now. We're kind of just like wintering and I love being home for the holidays and I'll just see how I feel in Jan and stuff like that. But even this time with my mom, like my parents are, my dad, I think is 78. My mom's like 74. Like when you start to realize your parents are aging, it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? And so I'm also just like want to have this time with them. And like I said, my brother and his family, because I don't think I'll ever have this kind of concentrated time with them again. And like, that's a big thing to realize. And I never thought about that before. You know, when you're younger, you think your parents are just, they're going to be the way that they are forever. So it's been really special. I've also just had the opportunity, you know, I have friends who live here and revisiting those relationships. And I've also just spending like kind of a lot of time with my family and just decompressing too. My nervous system, I didn't realize like needed time to just like settle back in after being heightened for years without even realizing it was heightened. But it's just going to be if you live in a big city, even if you're not like cognitively stressed all the time, which I definitely wasn't. But like to just revisit, like, of course, when you're around your family more, relational things come up and just, it's almost like I've done so much personal work, right? So, like, I'm so much more stable and guided and clear than I was, call it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, God, definitely 10 years ago. But there's always another level. And I also feel like I was being asked to slow down so I could look at the edges. Look at the edges. So, for example, like, what do I see relationally coming up for me? What are patterns that are still there that maybe I didn't notice because I was always like running around and like doing stuff? You know what I mean? Or just like internally managing a city like New York. You don't have that much else to think about. You just like get your shit done, you keep it moving. I had a lot of space by the fact that like I worked for myself. So I had my days to myself, other than when I was like working and choosing to work. And my time with my clients is like actually very nourishing for me. But I didn't really like, when you're living somewhere that heightened, you kind of don't, if there's a heightened frequency within you, you kind of don't know what is heightened because it's in my environment or what's heightened because it's with me. So coming back here somewhere just quieter, where it's like I can go hiking every day, I'm spending more time outside. It's just like quieter, which has felt really good to me. I thought I was going to feel suffocated. I do not. There's times where I'm like, oh, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody, right? Because like I'm not used to other people being in the house, but it also has felt nourishing. And also at any time I can go stay wherever I want. You know what I mean? But it's felt nourishing, and it's felt like I've graduated from the place in life of like this more independent way of living, meaning like, I've been responsible for myself, doing it on my own for a really long time. Of course, supported and the people who support me and mentors, healers, friends, all the things. But that's very different than building like a family life. And it's funny. And I don't have like an answer for you guys here. I do love the feeling of family. I just know that like I don't want to birth children. Like I'm clear on that. Love the dogs, would like more dogs. Maybe it's that my partner has children. Like we'll see how this pans out. But like the family aspect feels important to me. The health aspect, like I was saying, what wasn't working about New York for me anymore feels incredibly, I'm not willing to age over a city. I'm not willing to age or be sick over a city. And like my face was starting to break out, just weird thing. We were done. It was so sad, but we were done. Anyway, but I can't wait to visit. I mean, I love New York. So yeah, and I'm now in a middle zone a little bit. And so we're going to see what shapes up next. But it's just interesting because I feel like so many other times when my life was like, hey, now you're going here, now you're going here. It was like, boop, the moment hit and we were off. The moment hit and we were off. And we co-create with the universe and we were off. And this time, yes, I needed to leave and that was clear. But there wasn't a lot I need to co-create, like I said. So now I'm just like almost in this feeling of like, hey, well, who am I becoming? I still feel like me, but like what's getting ready to shift? And I feel like it's like deeper relationships, more intimacy, more groundedness, and not so much of like the Russian roulette version of Jocelyn. Just making insane money moves, like just doing all sorts of crazy shit that always, it's so much a part of my magnetism. I got like my Jupiter and Sag, like we move big, but like I've experienced so much of that version of me that like she is developed. If I keep only playing there, it's like that you lose that harmonization, you lose that balance that makes life feel rich, right? So a rich life is not just well lived in business. A rich life is like we're living well everywhere. And I wasn't living poorly in the other places, but I feel like they didn't have so much of a seat at the table because New York was like driving so much. It was like so much of the energy towards my ambition and right, like the physical representation of what that ambition had yielded me, which I fucking love. And that has not gone anywhere. And we were doing Relax Millions always, but then the city didn't start to feel relaxing to me anymore, which I was a city witch. It had been. And I don't see myself like moving into the middle of nowhere in nature. Like my kitchen's wet. I like being like having activity close to me. I like community. I like historical areas. Charleston has all of this, but I can like, it's way quieter and I can have more nature. I can have the beach. Like it's just smaller. But like, so we will see. We will get there when I get there. But it's only a rich life if like we actually do look at the edges and what is still coming up for all of us. And now I have the opportunity to tell, because I can now tell what's mine versus what's my environment, because my environment isn't all crazy. You know what I mean? And like I can actually look at, okay, is there anything else that I would want to look at that would be keeping me from being open to partnership so that like when I do go wherever I go and whatever it is, I'm like energetically open and available to that. Not like I need to make space for it. And again, it's not because like I always have time. I work for myself. Like it's not, you know what I mean? I can do what I want. I have 5 calls a month max. Like it's not time space. It's like I need an energetic space. And then what is the family dynamic I do desire to create? Any areas where I still see things coming up within me? Guys, like I want to be like, for all of us, like let's have 2026 be a year of delusional fucking happiness. Like we went through 2025, we went through the 9-year, we went through the shedding. Like now we've got the year of the horse coming, all of these things. And I'm like, babes, like we came here to be happy. I know there have been hard things. I know 2025 saw some shit moments. And you know what? Those weren't the only shit moments you've experienced. There's been other times in your life, or maybe you're having the biggest year of your business ever. And like, I hope that was the case. And the biggest celebrations in your life ever, and perfect, because we go through different things at different times, right? But regardless, there were things you had to let go of. And I know this because this just happened. And now we get to like create something different. And it's like, if we're not creating happiness, what are we creating? I do not believe that we came here to just like have experiences and like learn our lessons and like learn them for the next lifetime, which will hopefully be better. Like, oh my God, how boring. So if we want to be delusionally happy, what do we need to do next? And that is what I want to ask you today. Because sometimes it might be doing something scary. For me to be delusionally happy, I need to leave New York. For me to be delusionally happy, I need to leave an apartment that I had previously loved that stopped giving me delusional happiness, right? To be delusionally happy, you may need to invest in a level of your business that you never invested before. You may need to drop some offers in your business that you thought you were going to keep forever. You may need to open offers in your business that you were like scared to open, or bring a different skill set to your business forward, or learn a new skill set so you can grow your business in new ways, or bring another part of you forward that you've been hiding, or fucking come out of hiding because you've been hiding just because you're moving from one identity to the next, right? And this is part of why I really wanted to share what I'm sharing today, because I was like, oh, I need to like let them know what's been going on within me, because I didn't realize it. But it was like, since I was sort of like between vibes, right? Between my New York vibe and the next vibe, I was like, oh, I'm not really sharing what's been going on with me, but I have a personal brand. And so much of like why my clients are here, it's not just because I teach X, Y, and Z in business. It's like because of who I am also, which I am talk about all day long. So I need to be sharing like who I am right now. Right. And it's all fucking perfect. But it's like, so we don't want to be hiding when we're in these in-between identities, I don't even really feel that in-between identities. I feel in between in seasons of life, but this is a season of life. And the only way, it's not like where I'm going to land, right? But it's like, it doesn't feel as rooted in terms of, because I view rootedness. I'm like, this is my home and I love my home. Like there's my Taurus energy, right? It's like, yes, I have that, but not in the way of where I know I'm going, but it's still a big season. And so I want to take you with me, and I want to invite you to welcome your own seasons of change. And I want to invite you to express your power when you're inside seasons of change, and not hide and wait for that change to settle into something more firm that you feel like is more acceptable for the internet or whatever it is. Because we all want leaders where like we can see them in motion. We can see their change in motion. We can learn from them while they're in motion. In my case, I am a 3-5, and human design is especially important, right? But also like the more that the internet is like, you know, AI is everywhere, all these different things, people are putting all these masks, all these performances, all this drama on the internet and in our industry. People just want to connect into real fucking people who they can learn something from, and they can be real around and get reflected back to real things. So that means that like we need to be real too, which is why, and it doesn't mean you have to share your whole life on the internet. Like you get to share what you want to share, but I'm saying like, let's not hide. Let's not hide. You didn't go through all this shedding so that in 2026, you can just be fucking hiding, or spend the first half waiting for this like new identity to land, or new whatever to land for you to show up in power as you are today. So like, I wanted to share what was going on with you because it's important for me to walk first. And this is where we are. And I'm going to let it be a really good thing. And I'm going to let it take me where it takes me. And I'm going to go deeper into my own healing. And I'm always going to be sharing with my people. And I've just loved mentoring the women in my world so much. Oh my gosh, because I, made my business so scalable, all these things. I feel like I have so much space for my clients. I love walking women through their evolutions and like, how do we monetize that? How do we bring that to your business? How do we make it the best thing that's ever happened to you instead of a reason for an income dip? Doesn't need to be that way. How do we bring more of you forward? Not just the part that was digestible for the internet or the part that your last business mentor told you is marketable, because we can make all of you marketable. Like, I love business. I love evolution. I love the space where the 3D meets the 5D, where strategy meets energetics, where we turn frequency into form. Love that shit all day long. And I've just felt so good deepening relationships with my clients. Like, it's just, that part's been amazing, and just so much will come. So that's my update for right now. I wanted to bring you up to speed. I also want to remind you the golden door sale on all of my closest proximity spaces. So no matter whether that's a single private intensive, a month of private, 3 months, 6 months, the Revolution Mastermind, Fempire, Mastermind, there are insane savings, bonuses, all the different things. This is the only time of year this happens. So make sure that you jump in. Send me a DM if you have any questions. Y'all, but if you're going to be doing delusional happiness in 2026, make your fucking move, because your business and your money are part of that. No, money alone is not going to make you happy, but you will definitely not be happy if it's not feeling how you make, not just having it, but how you make it, how you receive it, how it flows, how it stacks, how it grows, like who you are as you make it. All these things have got to work together. You don't want to spend your time like stressed in your business or feeling like you should be someone else, or just always searching, contorting, and things feel a little off. Like, we don't have time for that anymore. We do not have time. So 2026, year of the horse, we're going to get back in the saddle. We're going to be moving. One of my private clients, one of the favorite things she ever said to me was, working with you feels like getting in a car that is already moving. And I was like, amen. Amen. We got the Aries. The Aries is leading the train forward. So happy to answer any questions. I'm going to drop the link for the Golden Door in episode notes. A reminder, also, for those of y'all who have credits, you're in Magnify, Manifest, Receive, you're in Overflow, you're in Secret Money, you haven't leveraged your credits, you are able to add them to these sale prices, not for private and not for Fempire, but for the Revolution. Hello. And then Fempire able to save up to $10,800 right now. And there's an additional $4K in bonuses for the Revolution. You save 555 when you join the Revolution with code GOLDEN555. And they're also able to stack any credits that you have. And then private is up to 50% off for my intensives. And then 1K off for 1 month, 3K off for 3 months, 6K off for 6 months. So, and like, this is my gift to you. This isn't some like grab it, like, let me like, have 10,000 private clients, blah, blah, blah. Like I always say when people ask me why I do sales or why I don't get freaked out by discounts, I'm like, because they feel like giving to me. They don't feel like a grab. They feel like giving. They feel like the women in my world who want to ascend to a new place of relationship together, to a new place of connection together, to a new place in business together, or who desire to extend. I'm making it easier for you at this time of year. And it feels like a give back for the people in my world. It feels good. So that is why I do it. Rate and review the podcast. Email your screenshot to assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com. I recommend that you do it before you hit submit on Apple, because sometimes Apple takes a little while. You can get $200 off any offer. Yes, you can additionally apply that to the Golden Door sale other than private mentorship. I love you so much. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. Come join in the sale. Happy to answer any questions. I love you so much.